Welcome to Global Watch. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. On November 7, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered a decision that would reverberate across the globe. In a historic move, the justices struck down the Trump administration's sweeping tariffs, a policy that had defined the nation's approach to international trade for years. The ruling was not just a legal technicality, it was a dramatic turning point that challenged the very foundation of how the United States wields its economic power on the world stage. The announcement sent shockwaves through global markets. Investors scrambled to make sense of the new reality, as stock exchanges from New York to Tokyo reacted with volatility and uncertainty. For many, the decision marked the end of an era of unpredictability, but it also opened the door to a host of new questions and anxieties about the future of global commerce. This landmark decision dismantles a key pillar of the president's trade policy and redefines the limits of presidential power over international commerce. For years, the executive branch had wielded broad authority to impose tariffs in the name of national security or economic emergency. Now, the court has drawn a clear line, asserting that such sweeping actions require more oversight and justification than previously thought. The court's ruling invalidates tariffs imposed under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a move that had reshaped supply chains, forced companies to rethink their sourcing strategies, and hit American consumers hard at the checkout counter. Prices on everyday goods, from electronics to groceries, had climbed, straining household budgets and putting pressure on small businesses already struggling to stay afloat. For businesses and households, this could mean long-awaited relief from high prices and financial strain. Families may finally see their grocery bills shrink, while entrepreneurs and manufacturers could find it easier to compete in a less restrictive environment. The ripple effects of this decision will be felt in homes, stores, and factories across the country, as the cost of imported goods begins to stabilize. Internationally, the verdict signals that U.S. law remains a powerful check on executive action, impacting trade partners worldwide. Allies and rivals alike are now recalibrating their strategies, as the United States reasserts the role of its judiciary in shaping economic policy. The decision could inspire other nations to examine their own systems of checks and balances, potentially reshaping the global trade landscape for years to come. As the dust settles, urgent questions remain, questions that will dominate headlines and policy debates in the weeks and months ahead. What happens to the $90 billion in collected tariffs? Will that money be refunded to businesses and consumers, or will it remain in government coffers, fueling further controversy and legal battles? How will the administration respond to this unprecedented challenge to its authority? Will new policies be crafted, or will the White House seek to regain lost ground through legislative action or international negotiation? And what does this mean for the future of American trade? Will the U.S. embrace a new era of openness, or will new barriers emerge in response to shifting political winds? The answers will shape not only the American economy, but the global order itself. The journey to understand the full impact of this ruling is just beginning. As lawmakers, businesses, and citizens grapple with the consequences, one thing is clear: the Supreme Court has forever altered the rules of trade, and the world is watching to see what comes next. To truly grasp the Supreme Court's decision on the tariffs, we need to step back and understand the complex web of motivations and justifications that led to their imposition in the first place. The story of these tariffs is not just about economics or international trade. It's about politics, national security, and the shifting landscape of global power. To understand why these tariffs existed, we must revisit the years leading up to their implementation, when trade tensions between the United States and several major economies were reaching a boiling point. Headlines blared about new duties, and the global marketplace braced for impact. The Trump administration's aggressive trade stance was rooted in claims of unfair practices by countries like China, allegations of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation. These accusations weren't new, but the administration's response was unprecedented in scale and rhetoric. The president argued that America had been taken advantage of for decades and that bold action was needed to protect U.S. industries and workers. Tariffs were justified under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law designed to give the president broad authority in times of national emergency. Initially, the administration linked these tariffs to the fight against fentanyl trafficking, arguing that economic pressure could help curb the flow of dangerous drugs into the U.S., but the president also frequently touted tariffs as a source of revenue, claiming they would fill government coffers and strengthen the nation's financial position. This dual narrative, emergency measure versus tax policy, blurred the legal and political lines. Was this truly a response to a national crisis, or simply a new way to tax imports? The ambiguity fueled heated debates in Congress, on cable news, and among legal scholars, ultimately setting the stage for a major legal challenge. By late 2025, the situation had escalated dramatically. Tariffs on Chinese goods soared to an astonishing 145%, with other countries like India and Brazil also finding themselves in the crosshairs. The global trading system was under immense strain, and businesses around the world scrambled to adapt. The economic impact was massive. American importers paid nearly $90 billion in duties, costs that were often passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Small businesses struggled to stay afloat, and the ripple effects were felt in every corner of the economy. All of this turmoil set the stage for a historic legal showdown that would test the limits of presidential power. The contradiction at the heart of the policy, emergency action versus tax policy, would ultimately prove its undoing as the nation's highest court prepared to weigh in on one of the most consequential trade disputes in modern history. The administration's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, was both creative and controversial. IEPA was designed for targeted sanctions in true emergencies, not broad tariffs on major trading partners. Critics argued the administration was using a national security law to bypass Congress and enact sweeping trade policy. The legal battle centered on whether the tariffs were a genuine emergency response or an unconstitutional tax. President Trump's public boasts about tariff revenue undermined the official justification, exposing a fundamental inconsistency. This tension became the crux of the Supreme Court's scrutiny. The Supreme Court's hearings revealed bipartisan alarm over unchecked executive power. Justices questioned whether EPA could justify such sweeping tariffs, fearing it set a dangerous precedent. Justice Gorsuch warned of future presidents using emergencies to reshape the economy without Congress. The administration's own admission that importers paid the tariffs weakened its case. The final ruling struck down the IEEPA tariffs, citing the president's public statements as evidence of overreach. The decision set a precedent. The judiciary will hold the executive accountable for both legal arguments and public rhetoric. The court's decision brought immediate relief to thousands of U.S. businesses burdened by tariffs. Importers now face a more predictable cost structure, while protected industries like steel brace for renewed global competition. For consumers, the ruling could mean lower prices on everyday goods, as inflationary pressures ease. Financial markets responded with cautious optimism, but uncertainty remains as the administration seeks new ways to impose tariffs. The threat of ongoing trade disputes lingers, keeping businesses and investors on edge. While one source of instability is gone, the broader environment of trade uncertainty persists. The economic landscape is shifting, but the story is far from over. The Supreme Court's ruling reverberated worldwide, prompting cautious optimism among America's trading partners. Countries like China, India, and Brazil saw it as a win for global trade norms and a chance for renewed negotiations. European allies welcomed the return of legal checks and balances, hoping for more predictable U.S. trade policy. Yet the optimism is tempered. President Trump has vowed to pursue alternative legal avenues to maintain pressure, especially on China. The world is bracing for the next phase of trade conflict, not its end. Many nations are diversifying supply chains, wary of future U.S. policy shifts. The ruling may slow but not reverse the trend toward greater economic resilience and autonomy. Politically, the Supreme Court's decision is a major check on executive power and a blow to the administration's trade agenda. Congress, long sidelined, now sees its constitutional authority over trade reaffirmed. The ruling may spur lawmakers to reform statutes like IEEPA and take a more active role in trade oversight. Notably, the court's use of the president's public statements sets a precedent for considering political rhetoric in legal decisions. This could make future administrations more cautious in their messaging. The trade debate is far from over. Ongoing clashes between the White House, Congress, and courts are inevitable. The fundamental questions about America's economic identity and global role remain unresolved. In the wake of the Supreme Court's ruling, the administration is pivoting to a Game 2 plan. Experts expect the White House to use other legal tools, like Section 301 and Section 232, to impose new tariffs. Section 301 targets unfair trade practices, while Section 232 allows tariffs on national security grounds. The administration is already investigating new sectors, signaling a shift to more targeted, legally resilient tariffs. Other statutes may also be used, despite potential legal and WTO challenges. The determination to maintain a protectionist stance ensures trade uncertainty will persist into 2026. The next chapter of America's trade saga is just beginning. The Supreme Court's decision closes one chapter of the trade war, bringing a sense of finality to a long and contentious legal battle that has shaped the economic landscape for years. Yet, as one door closes, another opens, ushering in a new era filled with complex legal strategies, shifting alliances, and ongoing uncertainty for businesses and consumers alike. The underlying conflict between America First policies and established global trade norms remains unresolved, creating a persistent tension that affects international relationships and economic stability. Experts warn that the ripple effects of these decisions extend far beyond courtrooms and government offices, influencing everything from global supply chains to the price of everyday goods. For Americans, the stakes are high. Lower prices on some products may eventually come, but the path forward is anything but certain. Targeted tariffs and ongoing instability continue to impact industries, workers, and families, making it difficult to predict what the future holds for the economy. In this volatile landscape, businesses and workers must remain agile, adapting quickly to new regulations and market shifts. Building economic resilience is no longer optional, it's essential for survival. Staying informed about trade laws, policy changes, and global events is now crucial for everyone, not just experts or policymakers, but ordinary citizens whose livelihoods are directly affected. The future of U.S. trade will be shaped not only by the courts and Congress, but also by an engaged and informed public, whose voices and choices will help determine the direction of policy. As this complex story continues to unfold, vigilance, curiosity, and a willingness to learn are our best tools for navigating the challenges and opportunities of a new era in global commerce.